So Natalia, we've had a lot of issues come up recently where we get troops from different components, whether they're active duty, whether they're in the reserves, or whether they're in the National Guard. And one of the things that I'm really proud of here at the law office of Will and Helixon is, we've got a lawyer who spent a lot of time in the Guard. We've got a couple of lawyers who spent some time in the reserves, and then we got active components. So we've got all those components covered. Like Mary, she did, 18 years in the reserves. I did 8 years in the reserves. So we bring to the table some knowledge of the components' uniqueness. And so some of the issues that we found personally that face the reserves are, how do you go from status to non-status?
Right, and that is definitely going to determine really the jurisdiction of the military in your life. So when it comes to, serious crimes, felony level crimes, that status is going to be the difference between whether or not the military can court-martial you or not, or if it's going to have to go to the civilian, law enforcement authorities and prosecutors, versus, the administrative side is a little bit more flexible, where you can certainly still face career, repercussions for conduct that is not necessarily in an active status.
That's correct. And when you're talking about these administrative procedures, you got one set of timelines that apply for the active duty folks and a whole different set of timelines and even regulations that apply in the reserves.
That's very true. One thing to consider is that while the timelines on the reserve side are a little bit more lengthy, you have to balance that and understand that these, jobs that folks are doing, whether as an investigating officer or as a legal advisor, are also on a part-time basis. So even when an investigation is finished, you're going to be dealing with, some of those wickets that the government has to hit after the investigation is over are going to be getting done by individuals that may not be at work and in the office every day.
Now let's talk about culture for a minute. I know for me, I did 18 years on active duty and then went into the reserves for 8 years. And for me, that was just a blasted culture shock. I couldn't get my head around it. Mary, on the other hand, did 2 years on active duty, got out because of pregnancy, and then stayed in the reserves for the remainder of her career before retiring as a lieutenant colonel. We've had some really good discussions about the culture of the reserves. And knowing that culture is important when fashioning a response to administrative actions.
That's very true. Understanding not just the culture of the reserves, but the culture of the individual units, the mindset of the leadership. A lot of times what people do in their civilian capacity can really influence how they view the world and how they view their jobs as leaders. So understanding, what these individuals do and how they view the world can really help craft a response to some of these issues that speaks their language.
So in the reserves, you got some terms that I discovered when I got there. You got your full-timers, you got your part-timers, and you got technicians.
Yes.
What are those guys?
Well, your full-timers are going to be the folks that are either on orders, either mobilized, AGRs, that type of thing, or you're going to have your part-timers, which is typically like a drilling TPU soldier that's doing your standard 2 days a month, 2 weeks a year kind of a thing, although it oftentimes ends up being a lot more than that. And then you have the unicorns that are the military technicians that really straddle kind of both sides of being in the military and being civilians. And misconduct can really have an effect on them, not just on the military side, but also, that's their day-to-day bread and butter livelihood. So understanding the different rules that apply, whether you're a civilian, whether you are, on orders and acting as part of the military, is really crucial to being able to formulate a defense and to speak, to the approving authority of whatever's going on, to just make a good case for your client.
One of the things that really shocked me when I went into the reserves, I thought, hey, I'm off active duty. I'm going to go do my weekends and then the next month do my next weekend. Oh no, I got pinged nonstop during the week, on weekends, when I wasn't drilling, for information with deadlines like, oh, you need to get this to me within 12 hours or 2 days. And I'm like, I thought I was in the reserves.
Yeah, I think that's probably a near universal experience, Will.
So understanding that the reserves really is more than just your weekend drill. It is still part of your full-time lifestyle being a reservist.
Exactly. It's something that a lot of individuals that are in the reserves, they sacrifice a lot, and having counsel that understands the levels of that sacrifice, how it impacts your family life, how it impacts your work life. I had a client recently that was in the reserves and, was facing some potentially adverse action for not being present enough. And we were able just to show just how above and beyond that person was going for the unit. And a lot of times that's really not seen. Or maybe somebody is creating, an allegation or an issue that just is not privy to the amount of work that's really being done behind the curtains, nor should they be, because they are maybe in a subordinate role. And it's so important to be able to articulate those things and be able to show evidence in whatever, way, whether it's phone records, emails, to show the amount of work that goes into the reservists.
I'm not kidding you. For your leaders in the reserves, your commanders, your first sergeants, the folks that are staff positions, these guys are working very hard outside of the drill status. And it sometimes even interferes with their civilian careers. And so having a law firm that understands that and understands, hey, you're not just a weekender, you're really just in a different component, but a soldier 24/7, even though you're not technically on status, you can be called any moment for any type of data call.
No, that's exactly right.
We are the law office of Will M. Helixon. We are your warrior advocates. You defend the nation, we defend you.